former Trump strategist Steve Bannon. He was speaking overnight at the California GOP convention, and he had some pretty strong words that were aimed at former President George W. Bush. Can you tell us about that?
That's right. Bannon was appearing, as you said, at the California GOP convention. He took a swipe at Bush after Bush took a veiled swipe at him in a speech that he gave in Houston on Thursday. Here's what Bannon said.
President Bush, to me, embarrassed himself. Speechwriter wrote a highfalutin speech. It's clear he didn't understand anything he was talking about, just like it was when he was President of the United States. I want to apologize up front to any of the Bush folks outside in this audience, okay? Because there has not been a more destructive presidency than George Bush's.
Not shy about speaking his mind, Steve Bannon. He has been making the rounds ahead of the midterm elections. He calls himself Trump's outside wingman. Dan and Paula?
David, thank you very much. Let's bring in ABC News political contributor Kristen Soltis Anderson. KSA, good morning.
Good morning.
So let's start with Bannon's comments overnight. Do you think he's counterpunching with some sort of tacit approval from inside the White House from Trump himself? And does the speech from former President Bush, in which he made some veiled jabs at President Trump, does that speech represent a serious political problem for the White House?
I don't think that President George W. Bush's speech represents a political problem for the White House insofar as the Republican Party now, it is Trump's party. That the worldview that George W. Bush and Donald Trump have about what America should be doing globally, the role we should play around the world, they're very different. George W. Bush's policy is not the same as Trump's kind of America First mantra. So it's not a surprise that these two men have very different worldviews. But what is different is that you've got a crowd of Republicans cheering someone insulting the most recent former Republican president, and the room is applauding. It's almost as if Steve Bannon could have been saying the same things about Obama. You would expect that kind of red meat would get that reaction. Here he's talking about someone within the party. That, to me, is what is really astonishing about this moment.
Yeah, the political discourse and infighting is astonishing. Hang with me here. I want to ask you a long question. But the sparring between Trump, his chief of staff, John Kelly, and Congresswoman Wilson. So Kelly asserted this week that Congresswoman Wilson bragged about securing money for a Florida FBI building during a 2015 speech, but video surfaced of that speech, and she did no such thing. Now, the White House really wants this entire storyline to go away, including the phone call to the family of fallen soldier LaDavid Johnson. But how is that really going to happen?
So it may be the case that the White House wants the story to go away. I'm not convinced that the president does. And in part, think about where we were a little over a year ago. Coming out of the Democratic convention, you had a Gold Star family criticizing Donald Trump on a partisan stage, and Donald Trump seemed to relish that fight, even as everyone around him told him, don't go after a Gold Star family. This isn't going to be a good look. And I think he feels that, look, he waged these battles in the campaign. He became president. So here's a partisan adversary, a congresswoman from the other party. Let's go after her with all we've got. The White House may want this to go away, focus back on tax reform, but I'm not convinced that the president himself does.
Interesting insight, as always. Kristen Soltis Anderson, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We do want to share a programming note here about an exclusive ABC News interview. Senator John McCain will be paying a visit to The View on Monday. That's at 11 Eastern, right here on ABC.
And as most people know, his daughter is now co-host at The View, and it is also her birthday on Monday.
I suspect
Meghan
a
McCain.
connection there.
Just a little bit.